Ever feel like self-improvement can be kind of, well, self-centered?
Yeah, I get that.
Like it's all about me, me, me.
Uh-huh.
But what if there's a way to like level up both yourself and the planet at the same time?
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Right. So today we're doing a deep dive into this really cool idea using 2 episodes of a Brazilian podcast called Green Connection, Growing Alongside the Planet.
Okay, cool.
They've got these hosts, Ronaldo and Amanda, and they're basically exploring how eco-consciousness can become a kind of a secret weapon for personal development.
Sounds intriguing. What kind of stuff are they talking about?
Well, one thing that really jumped out at me is how much they emphasize small changes.
Small changes, huh?
Yeah, like Amanda actually points out that we often overthink environmentalism.
I could definitely see that.
We get all caught up in these huge, overwhelming problems.
Yeah, for sure.
But she's saying even just being mindful of our consumption is a huge step.
Okay, so like thinking before we buy stuff.
Exactly. And then Ronaldo jumps in with this personal example. He started avoiding unnecessary purchases.
Makes sense.
And he's finding that it not only reduces waste, but it also like fosters this sense of detachment from material possessions.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about decluttering your home, but your mind too.
Yeah, precisely. Each time you like pause before buying something you don't actually need, you're strengthening your self-awareness.
It's like a little mini workout in figuring out what you truly value.
Yeah. And both Ronaldo and Amanda talk about how recharging it is to spend time in nature.
Okay, nature, yeah.
Ronaldo mentioned feeling more peaceful, getting new ideas, and just having a lighter mood after being outdoors.
I mean, that makes sense, right? There's actual science behind it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For example, there's this study published in Environmental Psychology that found that even a short walk in nature can significantly reduce cortisol, the stress hormone.
So it's like hitting the reset button on your nervous system.
Totally.
Even if you're, not a big hiker or anything. Just incorporating small doses of nature into your routine can make a real difference.
Absolutely. Even just taking a few minutes to, I don't know, tend to a plant on your windowsill.
Yeah.
Can provide a sense of calm and connection.
So simple, but so powerful.
Right.
Now, this next point really resonated with me. Amanda suggests that caring for the environment can actually be a powerful source of purpose.
Ooh, interesting. Tell me more.
So it's not necessarily about needing to make some grand gesture, right?
Yeah,
It's more about living with the intention of leaving things better than you found them.
I love that idea. So it's not about being perfect. It's about the effort, the intention behind your actions.
Exactly. Whether it's volunteering for a local cleanup or advocating for, policy change or even just sharing sustainable tips with a friend.
Yeah.
Every action kind of has this ripple effect.
It all contributes to a bigger picture.
And Amanda actually shared this story about how starting small made a huge difference in her own life.
Oh, cool.
Which made me think, maybe we all have skills and passions that could contribute to a greener world.
Definitely. It's about recognizing that we all have something unique to offer.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions align with making a positive impact.
Love that.
Yeah.
And you know what else Ronaldo said that I found really inspiring?
What's that?
He talked about nature's resilience, like how it adapts, regenerates, and endures.
Oh, yeah, he did. But how does that connect to personal growth?
Well, think of it like this. Just like an ecosystem can recover from, say, a fire.
Okay. Yeah.
We, too, have this capacity to bounce back from setbacks, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
And just like diverse ecosystems are more resilient, like having a variety of coping skills, emotional, mental, physical, can help us navigate challenges more effectively.
So cultivating resilience isn't about just toughing it out, but more about creating sustainable practices that help us weather any storm.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how this theme of sustainability ties into their whole message.
Yeah.
It's like a beautiful cycle. Caring for the environment is a sustainable practice, right? And in turn, it cultivates inner resilience, which then helps us continue making sustainable choices.
Whoa, it's like this positive feedback loop between our inner growth and the health of the planet. Pretty amazing.
Right.
So cool.
I'm already feeling inspired to take action.
Me too.
What sort of things do Ronaldo and Amanda suggest?
Well, they encourage listeners to choose one small practice that benefits both themselves and the planet.
Okay, manageable.
We've already touched on a few, right? Like reducing consumption, spending time in nature, finding purpose in environmental care.
So many good options. But which one to pick?
Good question. Well, We'll dive into more specifics in a bit, but first, what really stood out to you about their discussion?
You know, what really struck me is that it's not about being perfect or making like drastic changes overnight.
Right.
Ronaldo's example of just asking, do I really need this?
Yeah, yeah.
It shows how small, mindful choices can make a big difference. Absolutely. It's about shifting from a consumerist mindset to a more conscious way of being.
Yeah.
And as we cultivate that awareness, it naturally extends beyond our own personal needs to encompass the well-being of the planet.
You know, it's like that saying, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children.
Yeah.
Suddenly, sustainability becomes less about abstract concepts and more about the legacy we're leaving behind.
And that legacy doesn't have to be built on these huge, grand gestures. It's the accumulation of those small, everyday actions that truly make a difference.
Like choosing to walk or bike instead of driving, using reusable products, or supporting local farmers markets. It all adds up. But what I find really exciting is that as we make these choices, we often discover unexpected benefits in our own lives, too.
Absolutely. Like feeling healthier and more energized from spending time in nature.
Yes.
Or experiencing a sense of purpose from contributing to something larger than ourselves.
It's that beautiful feedback loop where caring for the planet nourishes our own well-being, which in turn motivates us to continue making sustainable choices. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering.
It is. It reminds us that we're not helpless bystanders. We each have the power to make a difference through our daily actions and choices.
And that's a message worth spreading. Speaking of empowerment, I'm curious how the concept of resilience fits into all of this.
Well, just as ecosystems have evolved to adapt to change, we too have this innate capacity for resilience within us.
But it's not something that just happens automatically, right? We have to cultivate it.
Exactly. And one way to cultivate resilience is by drawing inspiration from nature.
How so?
Think about how a forest recovers after a fire. At first glance, it might seem utterly devastated, but given time and the right conditions, new life bursts forth.
That's such a powerful image.
It is. And it reminds us that even in the face of adversity, there's always potential for renewal and growth.
So how can we apply this wisdom to our own lives, especially when we're facing challenges?
Well, first, it's important to acknowledge that setbacks are inevitable. They're part of the natural cycle of life.
Okay.
It's not about avoiding challenges altogether, but about learning to navigate them in a way that allows us to bounce back stronger.
It's less about being tough and more about being adaptable and resourceful.
Exactly. Think about the diverse ways plants and animals have adapted to thrive in all sorts of different environments. We can learn from that by building our own diverse toolkit of coping mechanisms, fostering supportive relationships, and cultivating a flexible mindset.
So it's about embracing the ebb and flow of life, knowing that just as there are seasons of growth, there are also seasons of, dormancy and renewal.
And just as nature doesn't give up, neither should we. We have an incredible capacity for resilience, and by tapping into that inner strength, we can not only overcome personal challenges, but also contribute to creating a more sustainable and resilient world.
This conversation has really got me thinking about the power of perspective. When we view ourselves as part of nature rather than separate from it, it changes everything.
I agree. It shifts our understanding of what it means to be human and expands our sense of responsibility.
And it also opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for growth, both individually and collectively.
For sure.
What are your final thoughts for our listeners today?
I'd encourage you to reflect on the interconnectedness we've been discussing. As you go about your day, just notice the subtle ways in which your inner world and the outer world are intertwined.
As we're talking about resilience and connecting with nature, it makes me wonder if there's more to it than just feeling good. Is there actual science that, backs up this idea that nature benefits us?
You're right to be curious. It's not just a matter of enjoying a pretty view. There's a whole field called ecopsychology that explores the psychological benefits of connecting with nature.
Ecopsychology?
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that.
It's fascinating. Ecopsychologists argue that since humans evolved in nature, modern life, with all its technology and urban environments, has created a disconnect that actually impacts our well-being.
That makes sense. I mean, we're spending less and less time outdoors these days.
Exactly. And that lack of connection can manifest in all sorts of ways, from increased stress and anxiety to even a sense of feeling lost or lacking purpose.
So you're saying when we make the effort to reconnect with nature, whether it's, gardening or hiking or even just sitting under a tree, we're actually tapping back into something really fundamental.
You could think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like restoring our mental and emotional systems back to their factory settings.
Okay, I'm starting to get how powerful this connection can be, but it's not just a one-way street, right? I mean, we benefit from nature, but we also have a responsibility to care for it.
Absolutely. That's where the concept of environmental stewardship comes in. It's about recognizing that we have a responsibility to care for the planet, not just for our own sake, but for the sake of all living things.
So it's not just about like taking from nature, but giving back to it as well.
Exactly. And stewardship can take so many forms.
Hmm.
Reducing our plastic consumption or supporting sustainable businesses or advocating for policies that protect the environment, it all contributes. Even simply educating ourselves and others about how interconnected everything is makes a difference.
So it's about expanding our awareness beyond just ourselves and seeing ourselves as part of this larger web of life.
You've got it. And that shift in perspective can be profoundly transformative. As we broaden our circle of concern to include the well-being of the planet, we also expand our own sense of purpose and meaning. It's like we're tapping into a larger story, a story that connects us to something much bigger than ourselves.
It's almost like a sense of belonging, of realizing we're not separate from nature, but a part of it.
Exactly. And that realization can be incredibly grounding and empowering.
You keep using that word empowering, and it makes me think back to what we were discussing earlier about resilience. How does resilience tie into this sense of empowerment?
Well, just as ecosystems have evolved to adapt to change, we too have this incredible capacity for resilience within us.
But as we were saying before, it's not like we're born resilient, right? It's something we need to work at and cultivate.
You're absolutely right. And nature itself offers some amazing insights into how we can build resilience.
Oh, I'm all ears. How can we learn from nature's playbook?
Well, let's take that image of a forest recovering after a fire. At first, it might look devastated, but given time and the right conditions, new life bursts forth. It's a powerful reminder that even after setbacks, there's always potential for renewal and growth.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to think about it. But how do we actually apply that wisdom to our own lives, especially when facing challenges?
Well, the first step is acknowledging that setbacks are inevitable. They're part of the natural cycle of life. It's not about avoiding challenges altogether, but about equipping ourselves to navigate them and come out stronger on the other side.
So it's less about being tough and more about being adaptable and resourceful.
Exactly. Think of all the diverse ways plants and animals have adapted to thrive in all sorts of different environments. We can learn from that by building our own diverse toolkit of coping mechanisms, fostering supportive relationships, and cultivating a flexible mindset.
It's like embracing the ebb and flow of life, you know? Knowing that just as there are seasons of growth, there are also seasons of rest and renewal.
And just as nature keeps going, so can we. We have this amazing capacity for resilience. And by tapping into that inner strength, we can not only overcome our own personal challenges, but also contribute to creating a more sustainable and resilient world.
You've given us so much to think about today. I'm curious what stands out to you the most from everything we've discussed so far.
What really strikes me is how shifting our perspective to see ourselves as part of nature rather than separate from it can be such a game changer.
I completely agree. It changes how we see ourselves, our purpose, and our role in the world.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, it's hard to know where to even begin.
Well, Ronaldo and Amanda offered some really practical advice that we'll dive into after a quick break.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how to actually put this idea of eco-conscious personal growth into practice. So where do we even begin? Like, how do we actually make this happen in our lives?
Right. It can feel so overwhelming thinking about, changing our entire lives overnight. But what's really cool about what Ronaldo and Amanda are suggesting is that it all starts with, small, mindful choices.
I feel like we keep coming back to this idea of mindfulness. It seems like it's really central to this whole concept.
It really is. And that's because mindfulness helps us shift from just going through the motions to actually paying attention to our impact. Remember Ronaldo's question, do I really need this before buying anything?
Oh, yeah. That one little question seemed to spark a whole chain of more conscious decisions.
Exactly. And as that mindfulness grows, it kind of naturally expands beyond our own personal needs to include, the well-being of the planet. It's a gradual but powerful shift from a me-centered consumerist mindset to a more conscious and interconnected way of being.
It's like we're starting to see ourselves as caretakers of the earth, not just shoppers on it.
I love that. It really captures the essence of environmental stewardship.
Okay, so we've got the mindset shift. But what about concrete actions? What are some tangible things we can do in our daily lives to make a difference?
Well, let's think about it. How about transportation? Could you maybe choose to walk or bike instead of driving for some of your errands?
That's a good one. I'm definitely guilty of hopping in the car, even for short trips.
It happens. But even those little changes add up. And what about using reusable products like water bottles and shopping bags?
I've gotten so much better about remembering my reusable bags.
Me too. And it feels good.
It does. It's like a little victory each time.
Exactly. It's about finding those small ways to reduce our footprint. Oh, and here's another one. Supporting local farmers markets instead of big chain grocery stores.
That's a great idea. Not only is it more sustainable, but it also supports the local economy.
Right. It's a win-win.
I'm starting to realize that sustainability isn't about making these huge, drastic changes all at once. It's really about weaving it into the fabric of our lives, like making small, conscious choices consistently.
You've got it. And you know what's really amazing? By making these choices, we're not just helping the planet, we're actually benefiting ourselves in all sorts of unexpected ways.
Like how?
Well, think about the physical and mental health benefits you get from spending time in nature, or that sense of purpose and connection you feel when you contribute to something larger than yourself. It's all connected.
Ah, yes. Back to that beautiful feedback loop we were talking about. Caring for the planet nourishes our own well-being, which in turn makes us want to continue making those sustainable choices.
It's a truly beautiful cycle that propels us toward a more harmonious relationship with both ourselves and the world around us.
And in a way, it's like a journey of rediscovering our interconnectedness with nature. It's about remembering that we're not separate from the natural world, but actually a vital part of it. Which I think brings us back to the very beginning of our conversation today. This whole idea that self-improvement doesn't have to be self-centered.
Right. When we start seeing ourselves as part of this larger web of life, it changes everything.
Wow, this deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on what it means to grow alongside the planet, and a whole new toolbox of ideas to try.
I'm so glad to hear that. As you move forward, I encourage you to keep exploring these connections between your inner world and the outer world.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us on this journey. We hope this deep dive has inspired you to find your own unique ways to grow alongside the planet. Remember, even small actions can make a big difference. Until next time, keep seeking those beautiful connections between your own personal growth and the well-being of our incredible planet.